Good evening. My name is Ken Cash, and I'd like to welcome you to this show. And this evening, I'd like to discuss with my two distinguished guests a problem that many former inmates are experiencing when they apply for jobs after their release and apply for housing and anything else that goes along those lines. With us tonight, we have Ms. Marilyn Lowry and Ms. Doris Williams. And I'd like to begin with Marilyn. Could you tell us about how long you've been back on the streets?
I've been out of prison for 6 years, but I did 22 years in prison. I went to prison in 1982 for a murder and a robbery. I did 22 years, and I filed, legal documents to get out of prison because I felt like I was being railroaded, because I really got 22 years because of association.
And during that time, I know you've been going to school.
When I went to prison, I did not have a GED. I took my GED like 7 times, but I got it. And I went to college there. I started, got my cosmetology instructors, managers, and operators. And I was trying to take any opportunities I have to improve myself. But when I noticed when I got home, it doesn't matter, if you did all these programs and stuff, when you get home, you still have a lot of, burials that people don't want to hire you because you've been incarcerated.
And you've been, I know you graduated from Tri-C.
Yes.
And you're about to graduate from CSU.
Yes, I went to community college because I had started college down in Marysville. I was working on a liberal art, but then they stopped our school grants down there, so I couldn't finish. But when I was released from prison, I went to community college and got my liberal arts degree and graduated. And now I'm at CSU, getting ready to graduate with a criminal law degree.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And Doris, you've been out how long?
I came home February 4th of 2000. Graduated from Tri-C in 08.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and decided to go on to CSU for my bachelor's in social work.
Okay.
And that's what I'm doing now.
So social work, and Marilyn, you're going into what?
Criminal law. That's what I used to do when I was in prison. I was trying to find any loophole I could find that would be beneficial for me to get out of prison, that, as far as my constitutional rights was being violated. So I learned a lot of that before I even, went to CSU to get my degree.
So it sounds to me like you would be an outstanding employee in that line of work because, in a sense, you've been on both sides.
Yes.
Whereas some other people, counselors, whoever, in that field are just, all they know is what they've read in a book.
Exactly.
So.
I think society, a lot of people, if you haven't been in prison, like you said, I have been on both sides of the fence. If you haven't been in prison, a lot of people just go on what's in black and white.
Right. In other words, you don't know until you experience it.
Right.
And Doris, I'm seeing you agree with that pretty much.
Yeah, I definitely agree with it, because for me, you never know how it is until you go through it.
Exactly.
And society have a way of looking at a person that possibly done something wrong a whole different way. And it might not even be that way, because I'm sure me and Marilyn doesn't even look like we've been to penitentiary.
Right. I mean, I agree. I fully agree with that.
But that's how it was. And I feel society have its way of holding these grudges against us. Okay.
Like a preconceived image that's associated.
Exactly. And although we're both in college, we're both about to get, I'll graduate in 2012 with my degree. And I know it still will be a fight. It will always be a fight for us. That's anybody. But I feel that we have a better chance with something behind our name.
Right.
With the degree more so than without a degree.
Exactly, right, which is true. Now, when you have both applied for employment since you've been released, on applications, is there something on there that you have that asks if you have a record?
when I was coming up, I got married at a very young age, and I became a widow when I was 21. So therefore, I never really had a work experience record,
Prior to
just
that,
put
right.
that way. And when I got out of prison, I was like, I would say, maybe I'll try to find me a job, but I don't know. I was 27 when I went to prison. I was almost, 49 or something when I got out. And I thought, I had a lot of thoughts in my mind. Well, one thing, I might be too old to get a job. There's so many younger people out there. And then another thing I got to thinking, well, I have this long space of empty slots of where I've been for the last 22 years. On the application, they asked, have you ever been in prison before? And that's the first thing. I don't want to lie about it. I tell them, yeah, And when you say that, you don't hear from them. They don't write you. They don't call you. It's over,
Right. And Doris, I know you've had some experiences. I know one you told me about.
Well, for me, it seems like since I've been home since 2000, at first, I really never had a problem getting a job. I have worked off and on until 9/11. Seems like after 9/11, everything just changed.
Really?
But yes.
Could you say how you think that?
As far as the job market, everything has changed. I mean,
would
because
you say
although
would you say people are more suspicious maybe now, or?
Yeah, I guess I can't agree with that. Just from my personal experience, on the strength that I've never had a problem getting a job, and then now all of a sudden after 9/11, it's a problem. And I used to also check that I did have a record.
Right.
But this particular one, which happened to me in '09, and I've always worked. So my resume looks pretty. With my work history, it looks pretty nice.
Sure.
And this company calls me in for an interview from my resume, and I was really overwhelmed that they had called me so quick. And fill out the application, it gets down to that part where they ask you, have you been convicted of a felony? I checks it, yes.
Sure.
No, that was on the application already. I'm sorry. So therefore, when she called me in for the interview, they already knew that I had. I've been convicted of a felony because they had the box checked. But they still called me in for an interview. So I get into the interview, and she and I sit down, and we're talking and everything. And, she's asking me questions, and I'm answering the questions. And then she said, well, I see one thing here on your application that I really have to address. And I said, okay. And she says, I see you've been convicted of a felony. I said, yes. And she says, has it been expunged? I said, no. And she immediately says, okay, well, wait a minute, I'll be right back. And I knew immediately, what that was. I knew what she was going to say when she came back. And she came back after a while, and she said, well, I'm so sorry, Miss Williams, but there's nothing that we can do for you. And I was like, excuse me? I was like, and may I ask why? And so she said, well, we're not allowed to hire anyone with a felony and, and whatever and whatever. So I was like, okay, I can understand that. I said, well, why did you call me in here for interview, and it's on the application that I've been convicted of a felony, wasting my time? And she apologized for wasting my time, and she said, oh, I am so sorry for wasting your time.
Well, that good
and I said, yes. And I was like, well, you already have wasted my time.
Exactly.
And then she said, well, I'm sorry for wasting any more of your time. So I was really devastated, about that. I was really devastated, and I left that place. I was just so tore up, walking down the street. I had caught the bus and whatever over there, and I was crying and all of this, but I had to get a hold to myself because I've been through this procedure so long and so much till it's going to be just doors slammed in our face. But we can't not stop fighting.
That's the main thing.
We cannot stop. I will never stop.
I wanted to mention when she said expunged, like a lot of people, everybody cannot get their case expunged. Like myself, I can't have my case ever expunged because I have a murder case. But even if you've been in jail, once, you can get your case expunged. But you've been in there more than once, you cannot get it expunged.
That's true.
And a lot of people don't even take the time to try to get their case expunged because I wish I could get mine expunged, but I can't. So me myself, since I've been home, since I couldn't find a job and since everybody kept turning me down, well, we see you've been in jail, you got to, because every application, I think, in the United States, have you been convicted of a felon, it's there. I just went on, I just started going to college. I just been going to college ever since I've been home from school, so that's what I've been doing, trying to, educate myself. Whether I use the degrees is another mystery, because I had degrees before I came home from prison. So,
Well, that part of it's probably true for a lot of people,
And Ken, another thing, just like Marilyn said, even about the expungement, although I've been home since 2000, I've been to prison 3 times, okay? And 3 years was the longest time that I did. But I guess what changed me around, because my last time, I went to boot camp. And
could you explain to the audience, more so in detail, what is boot camp?
Well, boot camp in prison is something where they kind of operated, I think they try to operate it more like on military style.
Okay.
More like military, like a person when they go to military and they go to boot camp. I mean, basic training.
I see what you mean.
Basic training. We had to do all of that. Get up like at 5 in the morning. We had to exercise.
Regimented.
We had to run. We went out in the community doing different community tasks, jobs, and stuff like that. Our uniforms was the best. We wore fatigues, military boots, and our uniform. Yeah. I mean, it was just so nice. It was hard. And the hats they wore were those, like, I call them Smokey the Brown hats, like highway patrolmen wear.
Right.
And, they get all in your face.
But
that was experience for me.
Sure
That was my
you
my
say that would be
start-over
your
point.
turning point.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Well,
And,
there wasn't no boot camp when I went to prison. There was only 300 women there, and no fence and no boot camp. I wish it was. I could have got out earlier, got out of prison earlier. But sometimes, I don't know, sometimes people, sometimes people go for that to get an early release. Isn't that like an early release for you? Don't they give you time, more, days off?
Some people go for that, Marilyn, but not everyone, okay? And that wasn't my reason even for going, because I didn't care about the early release, because I was only sentenced to a year. I needed discipline, and because that was my 3rd time going to prison, and I was just tired. I was tired, and something had to change in my life. And I used to always see these girls marching. They looked good marching. I seen the discipline, and I wanted it. And it was a very hard program, but it was times I didn't think I was going to make it through, but I did finish. I haven't looked back since.
Great, excellent. So you obviously really enjoyed that. Like you say, it was hard.
It was hard, but yes,
it was very beneficial. Maybe
yes, it was.
You,
it was,
guess,
and I did enjoy it.
Right.
Even the discipline.
Okay. All right. Marilyn, I know you have a good friend, Carmen, who really, really wanted to be with us this evening, but was unable to make it. But you had wanted to, I think, relate something about her job.
Yes, I want to relate to Mrs. Williams' job that she did. She spent 26 years in prison. When she got out, she had got a job for like 5 years. And I guess people who hired her, they searched around and found out that she had a record, and they fired her. But she wanted me to make sure that everybody knew that they had fired her from her job. But she's one of my very best friends. Because she went to prison when she was like 16 years old, she kind of like helped me when I got to prison. And we became to be very, very good friends when we was at Northeast Pre-Release. Her mother had cancer, and she started a cancer walkathon. Me and her both got together and organized a cancer walkathon for the women down here. Now they do it every year. I also want to mention that I am very grateful that Tri-C Community College and Cleveland State, I'm very happy that all them teachers have took so much time with me to make me want to go to school, because they just, they're there like you very special, because you took time and you listened and you helped me and you showed me and everything. And I just want to let people know that it's not just jobs people are concerned about when getting out of prison. When people get out of prison, they have concerns of where they're going to live, Where they, housing, because if you've been in prison, they don't want to let you get in certain houses. Not even our landlords running checks on you and stuff. And we come home, we have to stay somewhere. We can't live on the streets.
Right.
Some people go back and get back into trouble, because they figure they ain't got no place to stay. What the heck? I can go back to prison. I can stay there 3 days. I have a bed. Meal every 3 meals a day. But I have no anticipation of going back to prison. That's my first time being there. Since I've been home, I have done a lot of things. Not only went to college and stuff, but I'm in a book by Paula Johnson. The name of the book is Inner Lives. And also, I did a free time segment, a 9-page, and the free times. Matter of fact, I'm one reason why a lot of inmates got released from prison, because the parole board was going back on our original sentence when they were supposed to be going back on our plea bargain. Also, I've been on Channel 3 News twice because I graduated. The lawyer who came and got me out, Miss Kelly, Elizabeth Kelly, she fights for people for their rights, which that's the type of person I want to be, now that I'm out on the other side of the fence and stuff, because we all know where we've been, but we don't know where we're going.
That's right.
You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that's a very
it's
powerful
important
statement,
that, everyone knows that, you can't never say it ain't going to happen to me, it will never happen to me. You never know what's going to happen. You living day by day.
Exactly. And I think you had said something to me recently that I thought was very profound, that many people, employers, landlords, whoever, they're so concerned about looking at the past instead of what's going on in the present and the potential future. I think, obviously, I think from our discussion, I think everybody can see how your reaction to this is. I mean, obviously, it's extremely frustrating. Do you have any ideas what might be done about such problems?
Well, I feel after a person have proven themselves to society after so many years of being out.
And you've been out, I remind you, 10 years, is it?
I've been out 10
right.
years.
Okay, right.
Okay. And during my 10 years, I've, like I said, got my associate's degree.
You've been very busy.
And since I want to be a social worker, I used to want to be a chemical dependency counselor. Anything that's dealing with that, anything that's dealing with helping people. But I've been to a lot of alcohol and chemical dependency board meetings on West 6. I got umpteen certificates, any kind of seminar or anything that has to do with, that field. I'm there. I've done volunteer work, Merlis Taylor recently. I've been there. And, but I feel after so many years, not saying 1 or 2, maybe 5, 10 years or whatever, and a person is not going back into the system, they're showing themselves worthy, expunge that, regardless of what their record is. And like me, I can't get no expungement because I have 3. So I can forget that, so that's what I feel. I mean.
If you got somebody out there that really want to work, because you got some people don't want to work, but you got some people really want to work but can't work. I mean, these people are down in prison. They trying to get as much schooling as they possibly can get. Because like I said, myself, I went there without a GED, and I got a GED, and I knew I couldn't do anything until I got a GED. That's why it was so important for me to take the GED 7 times to make sure, that I can be able to use it when I got home or whatever. Otherwise, I wouldn't be allowed to be out college, because I didn't have a GED. But it's jobs out there. People can't hire ex-offenders and stuff like that. Because what is the purpose of working in prison, doing all these, getting these degrees, getting this diploma for this and that, and then you come home, you still can't use it. It's a defeat. Isn't that a waste of the taxpayers' money?
Exactly.
Your money, their money, anybody's money,
That's very true.
But
very true. And Doris, you were saying how, well, you were putting together a letter to send to certain politicians.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a project you're still working on.
I'm still working on that, yeah.
Going right from local politicians right up to the top.
Exactly.
Because my
to
own...
the president.
Exactly.
yeah, why not?
Yes.
In other words, let certain problems be
Yeah.
known. Now, again, we can only control, we can't control other people's responses. All we can do is put information out there.
Right.
But my own belief is when people send these letters to their politicians at various levels, that most of the time, or well, let's say more of the top politicians, are not going to personally read the letters many times, but somebody in their staff will. And I think either they can, I know when I've written to certain like senators and so forth in the past, I've almost always gotten a response from whatever topic I was writing about. So either, and again, how do they get votes? By pleasing people who elect them.
Exactly.
So even by writing to some of these people, you're letting them know what's going on, and I think many other people are in a similar situation. And either the staff member will say to whoever he or she is working for, look, we got X number of letters about this topic, X number about this. Maybe we need to do something to address this issue. Okay, let's help this person. You know, we're going to take this individual, we're going to do something to help solve this problem, you know. This person's going to tell all these other people, you know, word of mouth, you know, and then it comes election time. You know, so I think one way, a very minimal way, but a potentially powerful way, is to write these letters. And that's why it's also a good idea, I think. Of course, now this is coming from an English instructor and tutor, but it pays to have a good command of English language, because when you send a letter, and let's say it's all full of mistakes, I mean, how serious are you going to take that, you know?
Right.
So either to have command of the language, or approach somebody who you feel does before you send it. It really pays to speak up. You
Yes,
know?
it does.
And
Speak
I
up.
realize it's
Exactly.
very difficult, I think, to overcome many people's preconceived ideas. If I saw you ladies on the street, I would never know your background. You're not walking around with a label, you know.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, like her, she mentioned she's been out 10 years. When I had got out of prison, I had to serve 22 years. Then when I got out, because of the system, I still was on like parole, you know, still like in jail, in prison. I had to serve 5 years, but you know, I had very good parole officers, and I did what I was supposed to do, you know, what I thought they wanted me to do, because I'm not the type to go out there and, you know, and was messing with drugs or anything of that nature. But prison, either way it goes, when you just mentioned something, if the people don't bond people over and let them work who's been in prison, then they still gonna have to pay. If they don't help them that way, they have to pay, you know, help them when they go to prison. They're paying taxpayers money to keep people in prison. You know what I'm saying? So how, you know, you know what I'm saying, is how are they gonna level it out?
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And I might point out, Maryland at one point faced the death penalty.
Oh, yes, I did. When my case happened in 1982, I was in the newspaper. They said I could have been the first woman in Ohio to get the elected chair. But unfortunately, I didn't get the elected chair. I didn't kill anyone. I shouldn't have never got the elected chair. They shouldn't have never even said it, but they did. But my case was a very, very complex case. And like I said, I never killed anyone. I wasn't present when someone was killed, and they charged me with, I had 115 to life and 2 7 to 25. And then my judge wanted me to do the first 15 to life by itself and then start on my 725. But I had to, like I said, as far as that writing, I started writing letters, telling people how my life was, how it was when I grew up, you know, that, you know, give me a chance. You know, I just got involved with the wrong person, but don't penalize me for what his crime, what he did. You know what I'm saying? He's been in jail and this and that, and I had never been in prison before. I didn't know what parole or anything was, but now I know what parole is, jail, prison, all that. I've been on both sides of the fence, and I'm not ever going back. So if I can help anyone in any aspects as far as the prison scene, the prison life, you know, I'm welcome to, you know, I'm available.
Right, and I know that you do lecture to groups at times. And I think one of the flyers that we worked on, I remember there was a saying, if I can remember it, it's easy to get into prison, but it's hard to get out.
Yes, it is. Very easy to get in prison and very
That's
hard
so
to get
true.
out.
Exactly.
You know, yes, since I've been home, I went to some churches. I was at Case Western Reserve. I spoke to some of the students there about my experience in prison. And I've been to several other places speaking about my prison life. I mean, it seemed like people always like to hear about it. They'd be like, well, how did you do all the time? You know what? I was like, you know, it was hard. You know, I'm not going to say I didn't do it by myself, but God, he was first. He gave me the strength to do it because I didn't think I was going to ever get out of prison alive. Let's put it that way. Because I've seen so many people pass away there, you know, and I was
Right.
like, well, you know, my day finally came. I was very
Right.
happy. My father, when I got home, my father passed away 3 years after I got home, and my mom, she's sick now, but, you know, so I have them problems I deal with, but,
Right.
you know.
Well, I would like to thank both of our guests this evening, Marilyn
Oh,
Lowry
thank you.
and Doris Williams.
I
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
And what I believe is these two ladies, along with many other people, have definitely proven themselves, and I would say more so even than people who have not been incarcerated. They've proven that they're fighters, they're willing to stick with what they've done, and to me, people like that would make very, very good employees. So I just would encourage people to kind of think about such things. And I hope that things improve for both of you and anybody else in there.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ken.
Everyone have a
situation.
story.
Yes,
Pardon?
we do.
Everyone have a story.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Have a good evening.